Label. When you look up that word on Google and hit that see more, you definitely see a lot more, alright? It gives two definitions when it is used as a noun and two definitions when it is used as a verb. But technically that's when it's labeled, but we're not going into the specifics of that. Rather, I'd like to speak my thoughts on the word in the many aspects people use the word. Humanity's active conscience, subconscious, and unconscious use of it. How at times we chase and run after it, and other times we dread and run from it. Either way, most of us are running neither consistently parallel or perpendicular from labels. The best way to put it is that we run alongside it and bump into it at times. But before going on labels, let's talk on why it came to being. Humans have been attempting to make anything and everything as simplistic as possible since they began to think rationally. An example of that statement is we were once hunters and gatherers, and once we unlocked the ability of agriculture, we focused on that because it's easier and simpler to do compared to roaming around day after day looking for food when you can chill in one location, farm, eat, and repeat. I'm simplifying that, but you get the idea. But our desire for simplicity in everything we do runs deeper than making tasks easier. It's within us, hardwired in our thought processes and decision making. Whether it be cooking a dinner for yourself or ordering Uber Eats, the more simplistic, the more desirable said path becomes. With the most hidden in plain sight example for our desire for simplicity is labels. When you think of famous people like LeBron James, Eminem, Mr. Beast, Taylor Swift, etc., aside from being famous, you identify the individual using one word to describe them, not really having to think about why. A basketball player, a rapper, a YouTuber, a singer, those labels being noun labels. The most simplistic way to classify someone based on what is most known about an individual for the majority that knows said person. Noun labels can be literally applied to anyone, famous or a nobody. Hikaru Nakamura, a chess player, Iron Mouse, a VTuber, Lionel Messi, a football player. Noun labels may seemingly run parallel with individuals, but calling Hikaru a chess player is a gross oversimplification of who and what Hikaru does. Nowadays especially, people can change the label over time as Hikaru has. But, here's the part where people chase another type of label, the adjective label. LeBron James is one of the greatest basketball players of all time. Eminem is one of the most famed rappers of all time. Mr. Beast is currently the most popular YouTuber as of right now. And Taylor Swift is one of the most celebrated singers of this generation. Essentially, we chase after positive adjective labels for affirmation that as an individual, the career path we chose is the best choice we made possible, and for our own ego to know that we are second to none, among other reasons. Eventually, very few people get the opportunity to chase after the positive label amongst them all, the title of the greatest in any given career. But on the other side of the coin are the negative adjective labels. Labels we dread and run from as much as possible. Particular world leaders in the past have gotten these labels, Hitler and Stalin being obvious examples. But getting those labels is in of itself an incredible achievement on its own in how horrific a human being you would have become to earn those labels. But one thing that must be kept in mind is that once an individual is beginning to get positive labels, they will equally receive negative labels from those who doubt if such positive labels are worthy of them. LeBron's label of being the greatest basketball player of all time being a label that remains highly contested, and is something I've already talked about in a previous video. Overall, the goal of an individual getting these adjective labels is, to put simply, prove the haters wrong, to be the best like no one ever was, to surpass your predecessors and leave no doubt behind that you are in fact the greatest of all time in your career field. Well, that would be the goal of an individual who's ridiculously ambitious. Not my type of goal personally, if I were to chase after labels. Being the greatest is essentially where the individual and the label are perpendicular. The two meet and are now one. They become the face of that career field. But they can only remain one for so long until someone surpasses them, or how greatness is valued and defined within whatever career field that greatness is labeled in is changed. However, just because someone receives the ultimate positive label of the greatest of all time doesn't mean that they don't get any negative labels. It's just that the greatest label, it is just so powerful and loud that it drowns out the sound of the negative labels. To use someone I've discussed previously as an example of this, Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player of all time, but everyone knows that he was a massive prick to his teammates. But we overlook that because we see his obsession to win as a positive, when one could interpret said obsession as unhealthy for his personal life and for the team overall. But we don't, because he proved himself repeatedly to be the greatest during his career. Point is, chasing after the most positive labels does not equate to never receiving negative labels ever again. Rather, one must accept the fact that they can be attributed negative labels just as much as positive labels can be attributed to them. To end this, labels are a product of humanity's desire to simplify and/or categorize anything and everything in an orderly fashion that makes sense to people rationally. Sometimes, we do a good job at labeling. More often than not, we are horrific at labeling things. The biggest example of this I can think of on the spot is Asia, Europe, Africa, and the defining status as continents. Are they three separate continents, even if they're all connected landmasses? I mean, why does the labels Eurasia and Afro-Eurasia exist if humanity could 100% agree on what defines a continent? The answer is that we don't agree. The label of continent is arbitrary, designed in an attempt to fit into a vague definition and classification that humanity decided, so it's not complicated because we like to keep things simple as possible, because we hate it when things get complicated. But ironically enough, at least from a technological standpoint, we create complex machinery for practical solutions, which creates more complex issues, which humanity hates. Not to say we detest to do the complicated, but we simply prefer convenience above most things. It happens when you can microwave a dinner versus having to cook from scratch. Attachment to the convenient and loathe difficulty. Anyways, point is, labels are not the be-all and end-all. A useful guide, but not the utter definition of an individual's whole identity. After all, humans are complex creatures that desire simplicity in its survival through the use of our intricate minds to create elaborate creations, so that way we may live life in an effortless fashion, in a state of total ease. Okay, hungry now. I'll eat in less than an hour though. Now, I lay down and think whether or not I should record this today. We'll figure it out. Keep things simple. Matane.
Stand and fight. We've got him on the run. Keep pushing. Looks like
blocked. I'll fix that. Never seen a trooper like that before. You gotta get these Wookiees out of lockup. Keep moving, Jedi.